Okay, there. So, next is the compensatory purpose. So, this is a tax that may be used to make up for the benefit received. So, for example, in ani class, kaning kuan man gud natay ginatawag na excise tax. Okay? Later on kay i-discuss ko ng excise tax. So, for example, natay excise tax sa gasolina. Okay? So, an excise tax man gud on gasoline consumption is imposed siya syempre sa mga vehicle. Okay? Especially kanang kamo na may mga owner mo sa isa ka vehicle na nagagamit sa dalan. Okay? So, kung ano, for example, magkaroon o increase sa tax sa gasolina, most probably man gud if ever nga motaas ang tax sa gasolina, ang affected jud ana kay ang mga vehicle owner because there will be a big possibility nga motaas ang presyo sa gasolina. And then if magbaba ang excise tax on the gasoline, syempre mababa japon ang presyo sa gasolina. Pero if mapansin gani ninyo class, murag mas kadaghan nun pa ang times nga motaas ang gasolina. Even though ibutan na to 0.25 lang ang iyahang gitaas, pero kaupaton nimo siya og kataas sa isa ka bulan, mahulog japon siya og piso. Tapos once in a blue moon lang mobaba ang presyo sa gasolina, nya mas mubo pa jud sa gi-increase, di ba? So affected japon ta if ever nga naan mo motor or sakyanan. So ma-feel na ninyo na burden. Then next question class, what are the nature of police power, eminent domain, and taxation power? The police power can be seen in your terms and definition nga parts in yung module. Police power and also the eminent domain. So, my question again is unsa ang nature sa police power, unsa ang nature sa eminent domain, and nature sa taxation power. Nature of police power. Pwede sa unahon ninyo answer ang nature sa police power. Then, if you know the nature of eminent domain, okay ra sad. The nature of taxation power. Anyone would like to answer it? Anyone? Okay, Mitzi.
Sa ko nasabtan ma'am is preserve siya sa public order kanang sa health, comfort, general welfare, safety and morals ma'am sa murag sa ato man. Siya ni ma'am.
Okay. Sa kuan na siya na aspect sa police power na aspect
Yes po.
the protection of health, welfare, and the moral of the community. How about the other? How about the eminent domain and the taxation power? Mitzi.
Ma'am, and
Okay, Resaline. Okay, si Reynold na lang for Reynold.
Sa eminent domain, ma'am, kay power sa government nga ang isa ka private property kay i-convert niya into kanang public use. Tapos sa ano ma'am sa taxation domain ay sa taxation ma'am kay kuan kaning naga-impose ang government sa sovereign na kanang mag-impose og burdens or charges sa isa ka person ug sa property rights niya.
Okay,
Yun lang ma'am.
thank you for that. So, kuan class, first, I will discuss first the kuan na nature of police power. So, it refers to the inherent power sa tuang sovereign state as to Mitzi said earlier, no, for the inherent power of the sovereign state to legislate for the protection of health, welfare, and moral of the community. So, this is exercised usually para matabangan ta o bantay against excesses or abuses of individual liberty. It is restricted by the due process clause nato under sa Constitution. So, most probably, this is under the Constitution of 1987, which provided that no person may be deprived of life, liberty, or property without a due process of law. So it may be exercised through taxation because ang mga taxes na to may be levied for the promotion of the welfare sa to ang public. So example nga ni is first is the preservation sa to ang mga natural resources. Pwede sa under sa mga convicted criminals na to nga makulong. And lastly is for example anakay sakit na leprosis, dili nimo siya pwede basta-basta i-segregate from the public and also regulation of various professionals, no, because that is his kalayaan niya or kinabuhi niya. You should not deprive him na i-segregate nimo siya sa other people without a due process. Then the nature of eminent domain. So it is the power of the sovereign state to take private property. To what Reynolds said, no, it is the power of our state na to take private property tapos i-convert siya into public purposes. It is founded manggod from the idea nga ang mga common necessities nato and interest of the community transcend individual rights and also sa property. Since class kaning eminent domain kay inherited ni siya in our sovereignty, pertinent provisions in the Constitution are not grants of the power, but rather limitations siya upon its exercise. So natay under diri sa eminent domain natay ginatawag nga just compensation. So this means paying the owner or bayaran ang owner ato nga private property para magkaroon og kanang assessment nga kung pila tong equivalent niya dapat bayaran jud nimo ang full monetary equivalent sa isa ka property nga gikuha nimo. So for example, familiar ba ta sa coastal road na ginabuild dara sa kuan sa may Aplaya ba na part?
Apply ma'am. Oo.
Yes,
Actually,
ma'am.
'di ba, kung mapansin nato dagan man dara mga private beaches sa side, 'di ba dati? Dili man jud na siya fully
Yes, ma'am.
sa government. I think ang bay lang ata ang sa government pero katong other nga diri nga na side kay mga private property manggod to siya dito. So wala man jud mabuhat ang private property because that is a government project for the benefit of the citizen of Davao City. So ang mahitabo lang jud dito kay i-assess tong lugar or katong designated property na gusto kwaon sa government for the use of making the coastal road. Then, after doing that, kung ano ka mo, adto man dara ang wala siya natay ginatawag na city assessor office. So, sila tong tig-assess kung pila ang kantidad sa muhang lupa na needed gamiton sa government. So, mao to siya dapat ang government kay bayaran jud tong full kantidad na gi-assess as a kuan niya as a kung pila jud ang equivalent ato na kung ano na property, private property, dapat bayaran dito sa government full monetary or kwarta jud ang ibayad para magamit nila to siya nga area. And then next is the nature of taxation power. So kaning nature sa taxation power class, this is an attribute of sovereignty that is exercised by our government for the betterment, for the betterment of the people within its jurisdiction, whose interests should be served, even enhanced, and also dapat makatabang na makaprotekta sa atua. Okay. Next question. Another question for you. Ngano kaya class ang dito sa tatlong natong agi-discuss, the police power sa eminent domain ug sa taxation power. Okay, dito sila hatatlo. Kinsa ang imuhang tan-aw nga pinaka strong sa ilaha, or the strongest among the three inherent powers of the state? Kinsa ang pinaka-strong for you? Kinsa ang pinaka-strong sa tulo ka inherent powers of the strength between the police powers, eminent domain, dito sa taxation power? Kinsa kaya ang kusog sa ilahang tatlo? Yes, Reynold?
For me lang ma'am kay sa police ma'am kay murag mas mo gud jud ang police ma'am kay sila ang ensure sa atong safety sa uban ma'am. Kato lang ma'am.
Okay. So, sige ha. Wala pa ako Okay, Francis.
For me ma'am is ma'am domain.
Okay.
Kay ma'am magamit man gud siya ma'am para sa buong society gud siya ma'am. Para mapuslan po siya sa buong society. Kato
Okay.
lang ma'am.
Sige, thank you for that, Francis and Reynold. I want to hear the voice of, kinsa ba dito sa akong screen? Irish Landawe. Irish, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. For me, ma'am, is police power. Because of them, natay nindot nga community, kalinaw sa to ang lugar. And sila po daw nag-provide as if ever nga manginhanglan ta nila. And that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mura magpag-Miss Universe. Okay. Okay, so I want to hear Rosalia Mandawe. Landawe and Mandawe. Are you related to each other?
No, ma'am.
Rosalia Mandawe. Ayo? Ayo.
Ma'am, ako ma'am, mag-answer ko.
Okay, go Angel.
Yes, ma'am, I believe, power of domain, ma'am, ay power of eminent domain kay maka-affect mo gud siya mga property rights, ma'am. Strong kay siya.
Strong kayo siya. Okay, so thank you for that. Kinsa pa ba kung wala na kuan? Jenny. Jenny?
Eminent domain, ma'am.
Okay.
Kay law, magid siya, ma'am. Tapos, law, magid siya. So, pag makuha siya sa Congress, na possibility nga mabago pa siya. That's all, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for that. Branswell. Kinsa pa ba diri wala sa akong listahan?
Dalmo, ma'am.
Dalmo.
Para sa ako, ma'am, police power. Kay sila, ma'am, matabangan nila sa nila kita for our safety and safety po sa atong community. That's all, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for... Paano mo answer taxation power? So, Rosemary
Pwede,
Morales. Okay, Resaline?
Pwede sa taxation power na lang ko, ma'am. Kay sila,
No choice.
si taxation man good, ma'am, sila man good siya ang mag-provide sa tanan agency nga connected with the government man good, ma'am. Tapos ang kanang uban man good pres ni eminent domain og police power gikan gihapon ang kay taxation power ang si taxation power ang mag-provide para sa buhaton ni police o power og eminent domain.
Okay, thank you for that, Resaline. Francis? Yes, Francis?
Yes,
You,
yes ma'am.
you raise
Ay,
your
ma'am.
hand? Okay. Sige.
Sige ma'am. Sa ano ma'am yung sa domain ma'am?
Okay.
Kay ano man gud siya ma'am, maski na siya magian gani ang mga property ma'am, kuha gyapon siya sa gobyerno kasi government man gud siya ma'am, is under the law pod siya ma'am. Pero both man pod sila ma'am maka-benefits kay ang bayaran man pod ang kanang tag-iya sa kanang property good ma'am o maka-benefits gyapon siya ma'am, then mas maka-benefits ang society kay for example tong sa gi-example nimo na ano ma'am katong sa katong
Coastal
sa Bay
Road.
good ma'am, Coastal Road, daghan pod siya maka-benefits.
Okay,
Kato
thank you
lang, ma'am.
for that answer, Francis. Sa itong gitawag ka niya, si Rosemary Morales. Rosemary, naakadara? Hala, nakatulog ni si Rosalia, si Rosemary.
Yes,
Naa. Sige. Okay.
Para sa ako, ma'am, siguro, ma'am, taxation power, ma'am.
Okay. Ano?
Alam mo, limit sa rights sa public authority na maka-impose yung taxes, ma'am, na mag-set sa power, naka-qualified po sa under constitutional nga law, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you for your answer, Rosemary. So, I think Crystal Remoto just karon na ng sulod. Crystal, are you there, Crystal? Crystal Remoto? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, my question, kay para makaapas ka, my question is, among the three sa eminent domain is di ko kanang power niya kay pwede niya ang private property kay pwede niya i-convert into a public property, while ang police power kay mo help siya to sustain the health and protect ang iyahang inhabited sa nation, while ang sa taxation power kay where is that, while ang sa taxation power kay it is an attribution of the sovereignty that is exercised by the government or our government para sa betterment of the people within its jurisdiction nga whose interests should be served, enhanced, and protected. So, sa ako ang gi-discuss right now, what do you think is the strongest between the three? Para sa imuha lang. Or you can pass. Sa next question nga ka mag-answer. Kaya maragbag ko lang kaning sulod.
Ma'am.
Yes,
Bago
Jerlyn.
Good, ma'am.
Sige, okay lang. Just
Sorry, ma'am.
just follow na lang later sa next question. Yes, Jerlyn.
Ma'am, sa ako kay ma'am, the power of taxation.
The power of taxation. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, they include the power to create such as in case of granting tax incentives, exemption and tax escape, tax holiday and tax relief to certain business organization or taxpayers. Kato akong nasa ma'am.
Okay, so thank you for that, Jerlyn. So let's now clear your answers, no? With that one, I really appreciate your your own mga analysis for this question. So, the strongest, actually, the strongest among the three inherent powers of the state actually is the taxation power. Ano ka? Hala, taxation power. Anong taxation power? Actually, kinsa to pinakauna nag-answer taxation power kaganya. Dool na jud dito Okay? So, the reason behind ang taxation power kay kuan, siya ang pinaka-strongest because 'di ba, without money, without money, the government can neither survive nor dili pod sila pwede maka-dispense any of its other power and also functions effectively. The reason behind that, because for example, sa eminent domain, you need money or pondo bago ka makapalit og property. 'Di ba?
Yes,
Um,
tama.
Oo. You have to pay its full monetary nga kuan percentage or the full monetary equivalent of that property or the private property. But without the taxation, dili mo makabayad ato nga kuan monetary. And for the police power aspect, kamo ba, if imagine ninyo magtrabaho mo sa government, okay ra ba sa inyo nga dili sa ta mo sweldohan? Kay wala ta naka-kolekta og tax. Kamo class, okay ra sa inyo dili sa mo sweldohan?
Dili, ma'am, dili.
No.
Ay, kung kaysa magtubag sa inyo og pwede i-hire na lang ta mo dili sa ta mo sweldohan for kuan kay murag wala pa koy kita. Dili na sa magtrabaho for free. Diba? Murag kuan, murag kato, lisod siya actually, diba? Kung wala ang taxation power, dili jud siya magkuan. Dili siya mo work out pag wala ang taxation power. O isa pa, at a first glance lang, if wala ang taxation power, patay jud ang nation. Wala may pondo. Di siya mo-operate. Literal, patay jud siya. And most probably, walay tao nga nakapuyo diri if walay kuan budget nga nakalaan. Mas mo down siya into mapadala na siya og crisis and more poor will be poorer ana nga aspect. And then let me share with you class the similarities among the taxation, eminent domain, and the police power. So first similarities nila is that they are inherent in sovereignty. They can be exercised even without being expressly granted sa tuang constitution. Then second similarities nila kay they are all necessary attributes of our sovereignty because there can be no effective government kung wala sad ni silang tatlo. Okay, dili mag work out ang ato ang government pag wala ning tatlo. Then third is that they constitute the three ways by which the state naga-interfere with the private rights and also property. Okay, gina-interfere na kaya nila banggaon ang mga private property para lang makatabang sa public. Then fourth is that they are legislative in nature and also silahang character. And lastly, the presupposed na equivalent sa compensation kay the same lang ang ilahang gikanan. So, the provisions in the constitutions are just limitations lang para paunsa nato i-exercise ang mga kanisyan na mga powers no sa eminent domain, sa taxation, o sa police power. Then, if we have similarities, nasa tay differentiation sa taxation power, sa police power, and eminent domain. So, first, distinction nila kay magkanda lahi ni sila sa ilahang concept, sa ilahang scope, sa ilahang authority, sa purpose nila, sa necessity nila of delegation, kung kinsa to mga person na affected nila, lahi po silang aspect, and then sa mga benefits na pwede nato makuha, lahi po silang effect, amount of imposition, kung unsa sila ka-importante, and also ang relationship nila sa tuang constitution, and also naa sila lahi-lahi na limitations. So, My next question here is, what are the inherent limitations of taxation power? Unsa kaya ang mga different inherent limitations of taxation power? Inherent limitation of taxation power. Inherent limitations of taxation power. Sige ha, maghatag ko example. Not example, kuan man ko din siya, 3 to 4 inherent limitation man ko din siya. Ihatag ako ang isa kay para naamoy guide. Ang first inherent limitation niya kay taxes may be levied only for public purposes. Okay, Mitzi?
Para sa ako, ma'am, is ano siya, ma'am, purely legislative and it cannot be delegated by the legislature to the executive or judicial department of the government, ma'am.
Okay. Napailain?
Ano siya, ma'am, separation of the three branches of government.
Okay. Napay gusto mag-answer or si Mitzi lang?
Ma'am, try.
Okay, Jerlyn.
Ma'am, prohibition of double taxation, ma'am.
Okay.
Tapos, tax law must be subject to international committee, convention, or agreement.
Okay. Sige.
Tapos, ang uba na po.
Okay, Resolyn.
Government agencies, ma'am, are free from taxes, ma'am.
Okay, free from taxes. Mhm. Okay, so to summarize or to elaborate na lang siguro, to elaborate it, no, first is taxes may be levied only for public purposes. So it flows from the legislative objective of supporting our services or not our services, but the government's services. So ang mga public taxes, so if we say public, no, public taxes, syempre, ang kwartaan na, gikan pa sa public. So, public taxes are public money to finance constructions and maintenance ato ang mga dara na nato makitaan ang kuano ang pag-construct sa dalan, ang pag-maintain sa dalan, sa healthcare na aspect, sa education, sa security, promotion of science, commerce, industry, and other for the welfare of the general public. So, no individual or even private person shall primarily be enriched or benefited by the public funds. Then, diri sa first na aspect class, diri na nato makitaan tong ano, mga dalan nga, murag yearly na lang jud sige gina buhat. Okay, kanang yearly gina-construct ng mga dalan. Sa mga province dati kay murag Yearly jud siya ginakuan, trabaho nga dalan. Naman gani ko'y nakit-an nga dalan nga nindot nga gubaon na lang kay para lang jud na project nga dalan. Sa moang kuan province. Actually, I'm originally I came from kuan, Maguindanao. And my birthplace is in Cotabato. So dito sa moang province kay naay mga dalan nga always ginaguba tapos ayuhon na pod. And then napoy mga dalan nga katunga semento katunga kay lubak-lubak na. Kaya sa mga curve, sa mga pakurbada nga dalan kay dara lang ang sementado tapos sa straight nga dalan kay lubak na. Naka-encounter ba mo nga na class?
Yes, ma'am, there is amo
Di ba? Actually, ang reason behind that, inig picture man gud nimo, mura siya og mura siya og sementado tanan og kung dito ka sa pakurbada magpicture. So ingnon nila nga tapos na ang ilahang project even though nga katunga ra di ay natapos dito Og kanang hilig po na sila magsemento sa nga pababa kay inig picture di mahalata nga lubak na dito sa taas nga ang pababa kay sementado. Mao na siya. ang katunga
Tama jud, ma'am.
ang katunga na bulsa na. So the next is the being inherently legislative, taxation may not be delegated. So the lawmaking body of the government and its political subdivision exercise the power of taxation. So the power to exact laws and ordinances and also impose and collect taxes are given sa tuang Kongreso. Then third is tax power is limited siya to the territorial jurisdiction sa isa ka state. So when ang isa ka power class to tax is naka-delegate na siya to our local government units or mas kilala na to sa tawag na LGU. So only the legislator branch of LGU can exercise the power. And if it is delegated na siya padulong sa tuang presidente, it is limited to administrative nga discretion subject to valid nga standard. So tanan jud kay mugikan magud ang tanan report sa LGU padulong sa Congress, then the Congress will report to the president, then it will magbuhat na sila og law or ordinances para ipatupad if naanay approval or if valid na ang standards ato nga magikan siya sa presidente. Then taxation is subject to international committee. So the court choose recognition, mga friendly agreement na to, interaction and respect na to accorded by one nation to the laws and also institution of another. So for example, ingani class, tax exemption. Okay, sa tax exemption of properties na ginagamit sa ato ang mga diplomats, no, kana nakapuyo sa other country na sila ang stand for our country dito ang bansa or the head of the state in the exercise of the sovereign power and diplomatic function, naa sila yung mga tax exemptions. Then my next question, class, is give ngano kaya or unsa kayang rason why ang isa kay state can still exercise its taxing power. Okay, taxing powers over its citizen who reside outside sa territory na. So later on, mo proceed ta dito sa mga classification of taxpayer na to after this question para ma-elaborate na ko og taman. Sige, ingano lang, I'll just answer this question na lang. So, the reason behind this class, the reason behind this type of exercise nga, ngano kaya pwede pa makuan og tax ang isa ka citizen even nag-reside na siya outside sa ato ang territory or outside the territory of the Philippines. natay ginatawag man gud nga privity of relationship, like PRIVITY, privity of relationship. So this kind of relationship man gud exists because the state can still exercise taxing powers over its citizens outside its territory. So kaning word man gud na kuan class, privity, this is the definition of this word man god. It is a relationship between two parties that is recognized by law, such as that of blood, lease, or even service. So, in your module, we have there, ano, wait lang. Naatay first is the different aspect of taxation. So first is levying or imposition of the tax, which is legislative act, and then collection of tax levied, which is essentially administrative in character. So the first is taxation, strictly speaking, while the second, including payment by the taxpayer, may be referred to as the tax administration. So naatay different extent of the legislative power of tax, na-discuss ko na siya kaganiha. The subject or object to be taxed, the purpose of object of the tax so long as it is for public purpose, and the amount or rate of the tax, and the manner, means, and agencies of collection of the tax. So, sa income tax, under sa income tax na topic on the page 12, we have the general principle of Philippine income taxation. So, except when otherwise provided in the tax code. So, first is a citizen of the Philippines, residing therein is taxable siya on all income derived from sources within and without the Philippines. Then, a non-resident citizen is taxable only on income derived from sources within the Philippines. Then, an individual citizen of the Philippines who is working and deriving income from abroad as an overseas contract worker is taxable only on income na makuha niya from or within the Philippines. So, for example, a seaman who is a citizen of the Philippines who receives compensation for his services rendered abroad as a member of the complement of a vessel engaged exclusively in international trade shall be traded as an overseas contract worker. Then nasa ginatawag na alien individual, dili ni sila katong mga alien na nagapuyo sa outer space, kundi whether a resident or not of the Philippines is also taxable only on income derived from the sources within the Philippines. Then, domestic corporation taxable on all income derived from the sources within and without the Philippines. And a foreign corporation, whether engaged or not in trade or business in the Philippines, is taxable only on income na ma-derive nila from within the Philippines. So for the classification, no, um, so for kung ano lang po, for definition of terms, because we will be ano, we will always encounter these words manggod sa kuan, kay mga citizen, mga resident citizen, non-resident citizen, ma-encounter dyan na nato sila permanente. So if we say citizen class, the following shall be considered citizen of the Philippines if first, those who are citizen of the Philippines at the time of the adoption of the February to 1987 na constitution, or the mas kilala na to sa tawag na the Constitution of 1987. And then those ang ilahang mama o ilahang papa kay ko citizen sa Pilipinas, kay syempre if mga anak sila, citizen na pud ang ilahang anak. Then those born before January 17, 1973, the date of the adoption of the 1973 Constitution of the Philippines. and also Filipino mothers who elect Philippine citizenship upon reaching the age of majority. If naa sila sa abroad tapos mobalik sila diri sa Pilipinas to elect their citizenship as a Filipino or magiging dual citizen na sila. Then those who are naturalized in accordance with law. It is the same with the third one. The non-resident citizen, these are the citizen of the Philippines who establishes to the satisfaction of the commissioner the fact of his physical presence abroad and also sa definite intention niya kung mo reside siya or di siya mo stay dire. Then a citizen of the Philippines who leaves the Philippines during the taxable year para mo reside abroad either as an immigrant or for employment basis no, pero on a permanent aspect siya nga mo stay na dito. Then if we say resident alien class, as what I have said earlier, dili siya from the outer space. This means an individual whose residence is within the Philippines and who is not a citizen sa Pilipinas. Dili siya Filipino citizen pero naa siya balay or naka-reside na siya diri sa Pilipinas. It connotes man good more than he is one who is actually present in the Philippines, who is not mere a transient or even trip-trip lang na mula diri sa Pilipinas. So but resident siya nga but residence does not mean man good mere physical nga presence. But an alien is considered siya as a resident or a non-resident depending on his intention with regards to the length or nature sa iyang pag-stay diriya. So that is all, no? So meaning of income. Can anyone read no as to their sa ilahang copy sa module on the page 13? Can anyone read the definition or the meaning of income and also sa income tax?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, go ahead.
Ma'am, medyo saba ba yan?
Okay lang.
Ay, wait lang.
Okay, napay customer si Angel. Mitzi.
Income for tax purposes means all wealth which flows into the taxpayer other than as a mere return on capital. So not all receipts of a person constitute income. Income tax in it tax on the net or the entire income realized in one taxable year. It is levied upon corporate and individual incomes in excess of specified amounts less certain deductions and or specified exemptions in cases permitted
Permitted.
law.
Okay, so ang income, so this is for the definition of sa aspect sa um income taxpayers na to. So mostly magod kaning income magod, this is a money received especially um on irregular basis ba depende siya. So for regular basis, quarterly or for a 1 year basis for work or through our investments. Then we also have here the income tax. So income tax, this it is a tax on a person's income. Okay? This is a tax on a person's income, emoluments niya, profits arising from the property, or sa iyahang profession na gina-practice. If you are a doctor, a lawyer, so mo depende sa mga profession, a nurse pa. Conduct of trade or business or on the pertinent item of gross income is specified in the tax code of 1997 tax code as amended. This is less to the deductions, if any, authorized for such type of income. So that is the definition of the income tax. Then we also have functions of income tax. First function, can anyone read the functions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait lang. Kinsa tong una?
Sige, ako na lang.
Crystal. Okay, Crystal.
Yes, ma'am. Function of income tax. The following may be mentioned to provide large amount of revenues, to offset regressive sale and consumption taxes, and together with the state tax, and to mitigate the evils arising from inequalities in the distribution of income and wealth, which are considered deterrents to social progress by the progressive scheme of taxation. See report of
Okay.
the
Okay.
ay
Sige,
naman.
sige.
See
Go ahead.
report of the taxation of the Philippines, volume 2, 1939, called Madigal versus Rafael 38.
Okay, so the first function of income tax is kung ano, um, makatabang siya o provide o large amount nga pondo sa tuang government. Okay, so next is i-offset niya or wala niya ang regressive sale and ang consumption sa taxes kay kuan niya no, um, mabutang niya sa designated na purposes jud niya and together with the estate tax. So sa estate tax kay mostly from the property na makuha nga mga taxes. Then to mitigate the evils arising from the inequalities in the distribution of income. Kuya kayo no kay kuan jud niya, emphasize jud niya ang evils arising from the inequalities in the distribution of income and also sa wealth, which are considered deterrents sa mga social progress na to. So dara namang gawas ang mga kurakots. And what is the nature and purpose of income tax?
Yes, ma'am.
Reynold?
Nature and purpose of income tax. First is, it is generally regarded as an excessive tax, privilege tax, and not a tax in persons, property, funds, or profits. It is really a tax on the right to earn income by an individual or entity for governmental needs.
Okay, so dali lang ha. Ang ko'y tanawon sa message, may nag-message manggod.
It is second, it is self-assessing or self-computed. 3, it is imposed to raise revenue. Yun lang, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Uh, okay, so again, it is generally regarded no as an excise tax or privilegio na type of tax, and not a tax on person, property, funds, or even sa mga profits na makuha sa isa ka corporation. So it is a tax on the right to earn income, but an individual entity for governmental needs. It is a self-assessing or self-computed. So we will be seeing that on our chapter 3 nga discussion later on, natay calculation. Then it is imposed to raise again as the same as to its function kay matabang siya og raise og pondo para sa government use sa mga expenditures and mga projects. So again, as what I have discussed kaganiyan no, the classification of taxpayers, the individual, so under the RAA kay non-resident and resident, ano na mga classification. Then under sa alien, we also have the resident alien and the non-resident alien. Then sa corporation na aspect, we have there the general professional partnership and the general partnership, and estate and trust. So class, let's proceed to your Page 15 and 16. So you will be seeing there, kuan na, calculation. So, diri na ta sa calculation. Ma'am, calculation na. Are you ready na for calculation class? No worries, dali lang ni siya. Plus lang din ni siya o multiply. So, here is the rates of individual income tax. So, the individual income tax payable by citizens, residents or non-residents daw class, and even sa mga resident aliens nato, is imposed at a progressive or graduated na rates. So, the theory is that a person's ability to shoulder the tax burden increases more rapidly as his income becomes higher and higher. So, the more na mataas na mo sweldo, the more nga motaas ang imuhang tax burdens. So only resident citizens or the domestic corporation are taxed on income derived from abroad. Okay? So take note of that. Only resident citizen and domestic corporation are taxed on income derived sa businesses or income nila na makuha abroad. So the tax is imposed upon taxable compensation or employment income. So business income and income derived from the practice of professions derived by citizens and resident aliens ranging from 5% on the first 10,000 up to a maximum of 34, 33, and 32% on the excess over 500,000. So, makita ninyo dara ang amount of net taxable income sa table. So, sa 10,000 daw class, 5% lang ang rate na kwaon na to for income tax due na to. Then, if 10,000 to 30,000 na ang ato ang mag-gain, we have there the 500 pesos plus 10% of the excess of the 10,000. And then 30,000 to 70,000 is 2,500 plus the 15% of the excess over 30,000. And then 70,000 to 140,000 for the 8,500 plus 20%. And 140,000 to 150,000 to 22,500 plus the 25%. And also the excess over the 140. And 250,000 to 500,000 is equivalent nga the equivalent rate of this is the 50,000 plus 30% of the excess over 250,000. Then 500,000 and up, ang iyang additional kay 125,000 plus 32% of the excess over 500,000 in 2,000 and onwards. So this is my example. So before that, dali lang kayo, I'll just gonna open a whiteboard kay para ma-discuss na ko siya taman sa inyo ha. So, as you can see, there sa tong example class, we have the taxable income na to, for example, is 150,000. Okay, so 150,000. From our table sa taas, asa man nabilong ang 150,000? If ang imuhang taxable income kay 150,000, asa man siya nabilong sa table?
22,500.
22,500. Sa 140,000 to 250,000, tama?
Yes.
Okay.
25%.
Yes. Okay. So sa 22,500, the solution for this question is like this. Pwede ta maglibog. 22,500 kay under man siya daraa. We have to add the pila man siya ka percent?
15%.
Pila? Sa ang 150, 25.
25%.
25%. Karon ang buhaton nato next class is 'di ba ang income, ang taxable income na to is 150,000. This is already given kanin sila tatlo. Para makuha na to ang koan class, ang income tax due, we have, di ba, nakaingon dito is 22,500 plus the 25% of the excess over pila gani? 22,500 plus the 25% of
Over
what?
140.
Over 140,000.
Okay, excess over 140. So atong buhaton sa 140 is less na to siya sa given na income nga at nga taxable income. So 140,000. Plus remind you na you always have to follow the PEMDAS. Kung ma-remember ninyo na sa ato ang math. PEMDAS is parenthesis, exponent, after that is multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So first is you have to solve for 150,000 minus 140,000. Pila man? Pila?
10,000.
Okay,
10,000,
10,000.
ma'am.
So, siya na dire ang magkambyo. So, 10,000. So, pila man ang 25% sa 10,000?
2,500. Wait. 2,500, ma'am.
2,500.
2,500. So, pila man ang ato ang answer if we add 2,500 from our 22,500?
25,000.
24,500.
42,500, ma'am.
22,500 plus 2,500.
25,000, ma'am.
Ay, 24. 24, ma'am. 24,500.
25,000, ma'am.
25,000,
Ay, 25.
Okay. So, wala dahil nako siya nako ano. Wait lang ha. Actually, nag-solve ko pero wala dahil nako siya na-show sa inyo ha. Ay, kwapa si ma'am. There. Okay. So, 22,000. Kita na ninyo akong screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So, the answer here is
25,000.
25,000.
25,000.
25,000.
good. Ang
25,000.
bila ko lain na po inyong answer. Okay, so from the 22,500 plus 25% of the given taxable income na 150,000, iles na to siya dito sa given na kung ano, number o amount of the excess lang na pwede niya makuha for that particular nga table is 140,000. So, syempre, katong ako ang kuan sa inyo ha, reminder ka ganiya, always use the PEMDAS kay para dili lahi ang mugawas ng answers ninyo hang calculator. So, 150,000 less na to ang 140,000, so we will be having an answer of 10,000. Now, we have to get the 25% of 10,000. So, natay answer kaganiya nga 2,500. Then now, let's add the 22,500 sa to ang 2,500. Dara na to makuha ang 25,000. Yung answer na to, dara sa example sa to ang module. So, karon, sige, exercise. What if ang taxable income ninyo kay 140,000, pila man ang tax due ana? If 140,000 ang taxable income, pila man ang iyang tax due?
8,500, ma'am.
8,500. Okay. Any other answer maliban sa 8,500?
22,500 lang yapon, ma'am.
How about the other?
22,500.
Okay, napa bang iba?
$22,500, ma'am.
Okay, the answer is 22,500 because 25% i-times mo sa zero is still zero. Wala lang, gipahilis doon, gipakuan lang tamo. Yeah, gipakuan lang ako, palibog-libog lang tamo class. Actually, 140,000 minus 140 will be equivalent to zero. Then zero, i-multiply nimo sa 25% is still zero. So 22,500 plus zero is 22,500.
22,500.
So, what if ang imuhang sweldo kay 15,000 tapos ang imuhang net taxable income kay 13,000? Pila man na yung tax due ana sa 13,000? Hmm.
13,750, ma'am.
14,300, ma'am.
Any other answer? Look at the table ha kung pila iyahang equivalent. Na siya designated nga amount. Excuse me. So,
800?
800?
Ay.
Any answer? So, this one will be 500 pesos.
10%. 13.
10%. And then, mahimo na ni siya og 13,000. And then, 10,000. And then, laman ang dire, diba? 3,000. 13,000 minus 10,000 equals to 3,000. And then, the 500, 10% of 3,000 is 300.
300. 800, ma'am.
800.
Ayan. The answer is 800. Ma'am, paunsa na lang ang naisweldo na kuan, ma'am, na 9,000 lang ang kuan, taxable income nila. Paunsa man na siya i-calculate if 9,000 lang ang taxable nila. Taxable income nila kay 9,000 lang. Pila man ang inyong answer?
Wala, matanay tax, ma'am.
Negative na siya.
5%?
Look at the table.
700?
5% lang.
Mhm. 5% sa 9,000?
Oo, wala na siya. 5,000.
450, ma'am.
450 ang iyang taxable income. Pero Pero as of the year 2018, this is an old kuan manggod tax rate or net taxable income. As of year 2018 class, as far as I can remember, there is a changes, no? There is a changes on the taxable income nato. Murag 20,000 up ba or 25,000 up kay dili siya taxable. No. 25,000 down or below kay di pa siya taxable or 200,000 below. Are you familiar with it? Sa mga working student from near bago lang siguro mo nagtrabaho no kay first year. Basta year 2018 nagkatrabaho pa ko sa Unilever. That is the year nga mo nag-resign ko pagpatupad ato nga batas and I really nagmahay jud kung anong nag-resign ko sa akong trabaho ato that moment kay napatupad na ang bag-o nga tax rate nga murag 20,000 na gito or 25 or 200,000 below kay dili wala siya tax. That time man gud nagaguol ko because dako kay kog tax na ginabayaran dati. Kay almost 1/8 ang ako ang tax na ginabayaran dati. Nga murag sakit na kay siya sa bulsa no. Then napatupad siya nga dili na di ay taxable pero ongoing na ako ang resignation that time. So nagmahay ko tungod ato. So this is the old tax rate pero mao ni siya to ang ginagamit kay this is the book that we are using right now katong sa ba siya nga edition, the 7th edition of income tax made last 2017 pa nga libro. So this is not an updated book. So that is the kuha ba nato pa sa mag-calculate for the tax due? Okay na ta?
Okay na, ma'am.
Okay. So actually class katong panahon pa nako year sa ba ko nagkuha og taxation nako ha. 2013 kaning tax table class kung sa face-to-face class pa mo karon memorization jud ninyo. Mao ni siya ang inyuhang memorization nga table. Like pag 10,000 nga ni 5%, 10,000 to 30,000 kay 500 plus 10% of the excess over the 10,000 kay wala mo'y note or bawal mo magdala og table ani sa during sa inyong examination. So dapat memorize ninyo ni siya. And then let us now proceed, no? The second aspect of the rates of individual income tax is that a non-resident alien individual engaged sa mga businesses or trading in the Philippines is subject po siya to income tax in the same manner as the individual citizen and also sa resident alien on taxable income received from the sources within the Philippines. And for other non-resident aliens not so engaged, kay na lang sila tax nga 25% sa entire gross silang income nga na-receive diri sa Pilipinas and a 15% gross income received as compensation, salaries, and other emoluments by reason of the employment. So this is regulated through regional or area headquarter and the offshore banking units na na-established by a foreign corporation and by foreign petroleum services contractor or subcontractor nga nag-operate diri sa Pilipinas. Then pangapat is the certain passive nga incomes. However, they are subject to a separate and final income tax nga gi-impose as a fixed rate. Then meaning of taxable income, so income based of tax rate, the amount of the income upon which the tax rate prescribed by law is applied to get the amount of income tax payable is the taxable income. Then we also have the net income under the tax code. The term taxable income defined as how it is determined. So it means the pertinent items of gross income specified in the tax code less the deduction. Then we also have the non-exempt income. So the term is also used to refer all incomes or the entire gross of the taxpayer which are subject to the tax or which are not exempted from taxation. So now class, kung ano sa taxable income of an individual na atadaraan net compensation income, nasa net income, and the entire or gross income received by a non-resident aliens. So now let us proceed sa principles of the sound tax system. So in terms of kuan class, sound tax system, the Philippines income rate no in terms of the tax system is that tax rate is 5% ang minimum, and then 32% iyang maximum as you can see dito as atong table. And always remember if we are getting the corporate tax rate, 30% ang corporate tax rate. And as you can see dito sa ato mga ginapamalit sa grocery, sa ato mga resibo, kay naatay mga sales tax dara or VAT rate nga 12%. Then personal income tax, napod tay another table, no? Same Japanese siya dito sa first pero naka-focus lang siya sa tax rate. So 0 to 10,000 kay 5%, 10 to 30 kay 10,000, 30,000 to 70,000 kay 15%, then 70 to 140 kay 20%, 140 to 240 kay 25%, to 50 to 200 to 500,000 kay 30,000, and 500,000 and up kay 32%. Then we also have here kung ano, wait lang, I'll just gonna turn off my camera for a while. Then we also have the corporate tax and the withholding tax. So if we say corporate tax, corporate tax, the corporate income tax rate both for domestic o sa mga resident foreign corporation, as what I have said earlier, kay 30% jud siya based sa net taxable na income nila. Excluded from the income tax are dividends tumakuha nila sa mga share nila sa ilahang company from domestic corporation, and interest on the Philippine currency bank deposit and yield from trust funds. It is important to note, class, that foreign corporation, whether resident sila or non-resident sila, are taxable only on income nga nakuha diri sa Pilipinas. Then sa withholding tax, types of taxable income katong dividend, interest, royalty nila o technical fee. So if we say sa dividend nga area sa corporation, 15% lang pwede kuhaon dito sa interest kay 20%, sa royalty o sa technical fee kay 30%. Then sa value-added tax, as what I have said, na makita nato sa ito mga resibo, a 12% value-added tax of the gross selling price is imposed to all important sale or barter or exchange or lease of goods or properties and sales of services. So, kaning term na gross selling price, it means ang total amount sa kwarta or sa iyahang equivalent nga kung ano ang mga nagapalit kay ginabayaran nila or is obligated sila nga bayaran ang mga seller in consideration of the sale, ang unsa ang ilahang na istoryahan sa barter or exchange of the goods or properties nila, excluding the value-added tax. Then, naatay mga tax incentives for SMEs. So, if we say, class, SME, these are the small and medium na enterprises. So natay direct tax, so tax incentive for importers and exporters, tax credit are available for taxes and duties paid on purchases of raw materials of products for export, domestic capital equipment, domestic breeding stock, and genetic materials. So a tax credit of 25% of the duties paid on raw materials and capital equipment and spare parts. We also have the indirect tax, an exemption from wharf age dues and export tax due to import fees nato, additional deduction para sa mga labor expense kana if we are doing the exportation and importation naman jud tay labor expenses, and additional deduction for necessary and major infrastructure. Then lastly is the excise tax. So excise tax on exported goods produced or manufactured locally can be credited or refunded upon submission of the proof. So always dapat na proof of actual exportation and upon receipt of the corresponding. So unsa kaya jud ning meaning sa excise tax? So class, if we say excise tax in a layman's term, no, it is an indirect tax na gina-charge sa toang government on the sale of a particular good or services. And then, naatay ginatawag na 10 principle of sound tax policy. We have the ano, transparency. Wait lang class for a while. Um, so we have here the ano, transparency is a must. Be neutral, maintain the broad base, and then keep it simple. Stability matters. No retroactivity. Keep tax burden law. Dapat mubo ra jud siya. Then don't inhibit trade. Then ensure an open process and state and local taxes matter. So class, can anyone give me the or can read the basic principle of a sound tax system, the fiscal adequacy and all? Anyone? Basic principle of sound tax system.
Anong tulo, ma'am?
Yes,
Sige ko na lang, ma'am.
sure.
Number 1, fiscal adequacy. Adequacy. It means that the sources of revenue that in, receipts therefrom, taken as a whole, should be sufficient to meet the demands of public expenditure. It means also that the revenues should be elastic or capable of expanding or contracting annually in response to variation in public expenditures. The alternatives are to incur the risk of a series of deficits or surpluses due to inelastic revenues, or adjust the amount of public expenditures to fit the flow of funds, probably by curtailing certain activities so that the budget may be balanced. Elasticity may be obtained without creating annually any new taxes or any new tax machinery, but merely by changes in the rates applicable to existing taxes. Number
Okay,
2.
so sige. Can other read the number 2 kay murag taas-taas tong gibasa? Ito nagbasa. Okay. Irish. Equality or theoretical justice.
Equality or theoretical justice. It means that the tax burden should be in proportion to the taxpayer's ability to pay. This is the so-called ability to pay principle. It is also connotes that the contribution of each person towards the expense of the government should be so apportioned such that he would feel neither more nor less inconvenience from his share of the payment than every other person experiences from his.
Okay?
Okay, in other words, taxation should be uniform as well as equitable. That's all.
Okay, so for the administrative feasibility, so can I hear the voice of are you there na ba, Rosalia?
Yes, ma'am. Bangita pa na ako, ma'am. Nasa dapit na wala, manggod kalit.
Sa koan, 24,
24. Kailangan, ma'am.
page 24.
Sa number 3 na, ma'am, no?
Yes.
Administrative.
Yes.
Administrative feasibility. It means that tax law should be capable of convenient, just, and effective administration. No tax, however, ideally just and fair. It's better than the actual operation. Each tax in the system should be clear and plain to the taxpayer, capable of uniform enforce, enforcement by government officials. Convenient as to the time, place, and manner of payment, and not unduly,
Julie.
unduly burdensome upon or discouraging.
Okay, thank you for reading that. So class, principle of fiscal adequacy. So this principle mga god, it state that ang mga sources at ang mga revenue sa government should be sufficient lang siya to meet the demand of public expenditures regardless of business condition. So the revenue sa toang government should be capable of expanding or contracting annually in response sa variations in public expenditures. Because of, 'di ba, of inelastic government revenue, there may be ang natay term no sa mga government expenditure na ginatawag na surplus in the budget. If we say surplus in the budget ng good, ang iyahang situation ing ani is that ang revenue or ang pondo sa gobyerno kay mas dako siya than sa expenses na accumulate sa government. While kaning budget deficit, so if ang government expenses is more greater than the government revenue. Again, pag surplus in the budget, ang revenue or ang pondo sa gobyerno kay mas greater siya than the expenses. While ang budget deficit na mas dako ang expenses sa gobyerno versus sa iyahang pondo. An ideal budget man gud na kailangan nila ma-achieve is the ma-achieve sa fiscal adequacy kay dapat balance lang ang budget. So when ang revenue is equals lang sa iyahang expenses, dapat ana lang jud ang ideal budget sa pag-achieve sa fiscal adequacy. Then we also have kaganiya katong equality or the theoretical justice, no. So it states that the tax burden must be proportionate siya to the taxpayer's ability to pay. So this is based on the philosophy that he who receive more should give more. So, for example, nag-post ko kaganiya sa ako ang My Day. I'm not sure kung kaganiya or kagahapon or kagabi. So, I post something on my Day telling that ang thought na ko dito is that umayon sa ambag something. Murag ako ang ginapaabot dito is kung unsa tong imuhang naambag dapat kato gyapon ang imuhang ibalik nga action ana. So since the Constitution class provides that taxation must be equitable, a tax measure that violates equality or theoretical justice would make such tax measures null or even void. The third one is the administrative feasibility. So tax laws must be convenient, just, uniform, and also dapat effective siya in their administration, free from confusion and also uncertainty. So their exercise should be convenient as to the place, time, and mode of payment paano sa sila mobayan, and dapat dili siya burdensome or discouraging sa mga business na mga prospects. So competent public official must enforce this uniformly para dili siya makahatag og inconvenience sa mga businesses or sa mga prospect na ginakuhaan nila nga og mga taxable na mga income para dili pod hassle dito sa mga payer. So naalang ko'y additional sa tuang topic nga wala sa ato ang sa ato ang module kay mao naman to siyang pinaka last good but I while I was scanning your getting to know video I pass by on a video na he or she wants to know about um the fundamentals of the tax. Actually, dapat belong siya diri sa ato ang week 1 but it is not the manggod the focus of our learning outcome. Pero I just want to add it up here. Just na lang trivia para sa ato ang klase for today kay murag napatay 40 minutes na bilin sa ato ang discussion. So, first is, teka, mainom sa kong tubig glass. Okay. So, describe the nature of Philippine tax law. So, I'll be describing the nature of Philippine tax law. So, tax law is the body of law or laws which codifies all the national taxes nato or all the national tax laws nato including sa income, sa estate, sa mga excise, sa stamp, and even mga other taxes na under sa Philippine tax law or the national tax laws. So it also include Republic City number 9337 or the VAT reform law and the local tax ordinances issued by the local government. So the tax code class is kaning ginatawag na to na tax code. It is an example of a special law which prevails over a general law such as the civil code or the rules of the court. So the Philippine tax laws are generally civil in nature. They are neither political or nor even nor penal in nature. So it is valid and legal that income tax return shall be filed and paid by the inhabitants even if foreign invaders occupy our country. They are not penal in nature because of the reason that they do not define crimes and provide for their punishment. They are not remedial law or they are not remedial laws. They do not include procedures to protect rights and also prevent or rectify wrong na mga doings. So, naatay ginatawag nga internal revenue law. Kaning internal revenue clause naga-include ni siya og tanan nga law nga legislated nga naga-pertain sa ato ang national government taxes which is embodied in the NIRC such katong mga legislation na commonly called as revenue measures. So, maliban atong internal revenue law, nasa tawag na internal revenue taxes. So, these are the taxes na gina-impose sa to ang legislative body other than the custom duties on imports. So, as what I have said earlier, about the tax code, this tax code manggod is based siya on the 1997 NIRC. So this is also known as the Comprehensive Tax Reform of the Philippines that are special law na nag-prevail over general laws such as civil code or rules of court. So accordingly, the provisions of the ang provision sa NIRC kay ang prescription are given priority over provision of the civil code on the prescriptions. Then another thing is that the prospective application of tax laws. So, unsa kaya ang prospective application sa tax laws? So, a tax statute, manggod, must be applicable siya and operative only upon becoming a law. Kung mahimo na siya og isa ka batas or panukala. It is given retroactive effect only if there is a clear legislative intent in that regard. So, tax laws, however, class, should not be given retroactive application when it would be harsh and oppressive against the taxpayer so as not to violate the constitutional limitation of due process. Na-discuss na to na siya kaganiha on the due process, no? And then lastly is unsa kaya ang sources sa ato ang Philippine Tax Law? Asa kaya nagikan ning Philippine Tax Law nato? First sources of the Philippine Tax Law is the Constitution of the Philippines. So, unsa man yung Constitution of the Philippines, marag kaganiya pa ninyo sigig madungog sa kuang baba. So, the body of rules and maxims in accordance with which the powers of sovereignty are habitual exercise. It is the supreme or fundamental law of the land because all other laws must conform diri sa atoang Constitution of the Philippines. So it is the basis in determining the legality of all governmental actions and also sa mga decisions na ginabuhat sa atoang government. So ang state can exercise the power to tax even if the Constitution is completely silent about the taxation. So we also have another source is the statutes, the judicial decisions, ang mga executive orders or mas kilala na to sa EO. Dili ni siya tong EO nga optical store ha. This is an executive order. And then we also have the special law. Then tax treaties convention with foreign countries kana mga related na mga taxations for the foreign countries, then revenue regulation promulgated by the Department of Foreign, and then BIR revenue memorandums or mga circulars and custom memorandums order pwede sa dara magikan ng kuan ang ato ang Philippine Tax Law and mga BIR rulings. And lastly, class, is the local government code nga makuha nato sa book 2. Okay, sa local government code. So that is all our discussion for this afternoon. Do you have questions, clarifications, violent reactions with regards to our discussion for this afternoon? You may ask questions na.
Ma'am, kaning nalang ko'y ano, ma'am ba? Sa grade
Yes.
11, manggod na mo kay, sa accountancy na mo kay, ay sa, grade 12, di ay, kanapalit may og libro, ma'am, then, included dito ang train law, di ba mao man tutong bago nga law about sa tax, ma'am?
Mawala siya ang latest, ang train law. Later sa ang train law, musulod na siya on our week. Let me check ha. Naani siya sa toang module. Musulod ni siya nga topic on the train law. Week 4, 4.1 train law. If you can see on the page 3 sa inyong SCP, naadara ang train law. Page
Yes,
3.
ma'am.
Musulod na siya sa finals na to. Train law. Then, kauban niya ang basic summary of Philippine income tax on the week 4. So, duwa na sila. Kung mapansin ninyo, tagduha-duha ang kuan class, ang lesson sa week 1, the 1.1 and the 1.2. Most probably, ang inyuhang quizzes and activities kay tagduha-duha sad. Okay, duwa na siya ka parts. Kaning sa 6.1 na BTL documentary, isara na siya. Pwede na ko na siya isahon. Pero kaning others manggod kay kuan familiar man siguro mo sa dagway sa to ang kuan no, sa to ang activities na aspect sa to ang module nga naay infer, naay inquire, naay initiate.
Yes, ma'am.
So bale a total of 2 4 ano duha tulo duha tulo duha tulo duha. So most probably sampo jud siya ka ano question 10 questions for the week 1 nga quiz. Kay under man na siya sa quizzes ang initiate og inquire. Then your infer will be your assignment. So duha ka assignment ang inyong buhaton for week 1. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
tomorrow I'll be giving the quizzes tomorrow. If na may trabaho, most probably may trabaho man jud pag Sunday, no. I'll be giving you a way to answer your quiz until 11:59 p.m. Beyond that, I will give a deduction na sa grade. Okay lang ba?
Yes po.
Ma'am.
Yes po, ma'am.
Makaya nag-answer from 1 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Kaya nun, ma'am.
Kaya nun. Okay, sige.
Love
And
you,
then,
ma'am.
1 week sa 1 week sa activity. Duwa naman siguro ang inyong enroll nga subject for summer.
Yes,
Yes,
po.
ma'am.
Okay, sige. Pero just let me know kung mas daghan pa jud ang activity na ginahatag sa inyo sa PICAS. So, makahuna-huna ko other mga unsang nindot buhaton kay para dili lang sad mo mahasel.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So, napay questions, clarifications? Questions? Clarifications? Napatay 35 minutes. Unsa pa? Napay questions gusto i-ask? Hello?
Ay ma'am, ask lang kung anong dili included ang government sa tax, ma'am.
Dili included ang government sa tax. Na exempted sila sa tax. Ana?
Yes, ma'am.
For a while. The reason behind manggod, the government is exempted kay the Internal Revenue Service manggod does not provide a tax exempt conjud actually. Wait lang nga. According to the the updated on the March 2018, starting January 1, 2018, compensation income earners. Ay, wait lang class. 250,000 or less are exempt from personal income. Okay, ako ang nabasa di ay is the kung anong katong kaganyan na nag-ingon ko sa inyo nga ang ang income tax sa sa sahod is nag-change na. Okay? So the 250,000 jud ay itong kaganyan akong giingon nga exempted sa tax ang ang ilahang income for that year. So class, for the government reason man good, ang only those revenues na generate lang sa mga LGUs is in the performance of their governmental functions are exempted from income and business taxes as to the BIR, no? Ang mga revenues na mga butang lang, mga revenues generated by the LGUs in the performance of their governmental functions are exempted from the income and the business taxes. And then, regarding with the tax exemption, actually, I think this topic will be captured, no, on the, I think it is on the week 2 or week 3 week 2 or week 3 nga discussion, the internal revenue models or sa gross income section katong mga tax avoidance and usa tax exemptions nato nga topic. I think dahil lang. Let me see the Okay, so this is on my on my note on the week 2 nga discussion. So tax exemption of the government. So the tax exemption of the government is inherent siya in its power to impose tax, di ba? So the state cannot be taxed without its consent. So otherwise, such is derogation man gud siya to its sovereignty. So tax exemption applies only to government entities through which the government immediately and directly exercises its governmental functions. For example, katong mga armed forces of the Philippines or the AFP. If or however, okay, so this is a note. So however, the government entities are performing proprietary nga mga functions such as for example ang sa ato ang for example, aning proprietary nga functions kay ang Philippine National Railways or kanang mga naa sa PNR and the National Power Corporation or the NPC, they are generally silang mga government offices subject sila to tax in the absence of the tax exemption provision in their charters or the law creating it. So, mao to siya ang ang mga tax exemption of the government. And para masabdan siya um to summarize it, the government typically exempts organization or under sa ilaha from income taxes entirely when they serve the public good kanang wala sila nagapabayad in whatsoever, such as religious or charitable type silang organizations lang. So that is the difference nila. So did I answer your question, Reynold?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. So any questions and clarifications? Do you still have?
Ang quiz, mag-ugma pa nimo ihatag.
Ha?
Ang quiz, ugma pa nimo ihatag.
Yes, tomorrow pa nako ihatag. Mama, sino may post, ma'am? Ang quiz, i-post na ko siya sa Google Classroom, but I will be leaving the link to the Edmodo. Dito na ko ibilin ang link. Then, later on, after ma-available na ang kaning discussion nato nga gi-record, kung ano, i-post na po na ko ni siya sa Edmodo. Tanan posting na ko kay dito sa Edmodo. Pero ang inyong assignment or the activity assignment, dito na ko siya sa Edmodo ipabuhat. Okay lang dito kay kung ano man gusto siya commentary type of interaction lang man dito ang assignment sa Edmodo. Ha?
Tapos nga mo sa
Yes?
At nga mo sa isend.
Yes, ma'am.
Ay, unsa to?
At nga mo sa isend, ma'am.
I-send. Automatic naman to siya i-submit lang. Makita na nako siya dito
Okay.
Oo. Sa Google Classroom upon answering the questions, if done na mo, automatically masubmit na tong masubmit na tong inyong work. Then sa katong assignment or activity ninyo sa Edmodo, just send it there lang. You can pwede ko maghangyo sa inyo class when answering dito sa Edmodo. Can you please use the text response na lang kaysa sa input mo og files
PDF.
or PDF.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay ra?
Apa,
Okay,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Opo,
Okay,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sige. Thank you kaayo. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
napay clarifications, concerns? None so far. And also, class, another ko concern, if ever mapansin ninyo, na-joy times na mag-lag ang akong utok, no? Especially on words. Kay, dili ko nga to kahawd magbisaya. I'm originally speaking Tagalog and sometimes I could speak in Ilonggo. So, may Bisaya is mahaloan siya og hiligay nun. If dili mo kasabot, maingon mo, ma'am, nagstorya na pagkag alien word. Kay sometimes mahalo-halo na ko ang istorya. Pero mostly, I use Tagalog. Pero gina-practice na ko nga makatuon jud ko og mga Bisaya nga words. So, mga to. Yes? Hazel?
Mag-Ilonggo lang ta, ma'am, eh.
Mag-Ilonggo.
Kamo lang kasabot, ma'am.
Basta kita lang makasabot tatlo. Hindi na makasabot ang iban. Dili bitaw, although my father side kasi is a Chinese Antiken niya ang iyahang mother. So, ang jud namo is not hiligay nun but kinaray So, isog gid
Pinakadalom nila nga istorya, ma'am.
Magambal sa mga hiligay nun or kinaray Then, when kasi magkwento na lang ko kay taas kayo ang time. So, katong nag-transfer na ko diri sa Davao, dili jud ko kabalo magbisaya, literal. Pero makasabot ko. Tagalog jud ko. Og man gud ko class, loner ko sa college. I don't have friends. Mas prefer na ko nga wala ko yung friends nga ako ra isa. So, nag-mindset jud ko nga dili jud ko mo adjust. Kamoy mo adjust ako, gusto mo makipag-friend. Dili jud ko magbisaya. Mao na siya ako mindset dati. So, nahantod sa nag-4th year na lang ko class, Tagalog jud ko, wa jud ko although nag-practice ko og Bisaya, ang ending, kabalo mo sa giingon sa ko Kay, wag ka na lang magsalita ng ng Bisaya kasi para kang kumakanta. Og dito na nabalaan nga ako ang family is especially if naa ka sa Cotabato, mostly man gud or sa dito sa among province, mostly man gud sa mua is ang kadaghanan dito it's either Ilocano or Ilonggo or Ilongga ang mga ang the way sila mag-speak. So, yung tono ko is, pag nagbibisaya, is may pababa, may pataas, may pababa. So, para akong kumakanta. Ganon. Then, eventually, giingnan ko nila, anong Tagalog na pod ko, giingnan ko nila na, kay wag ka na lang ayaw na lang pag Bisaya kay pangit kay paminawon. Mura kag nagakanta nga wala sa tono. Even naga-up and down yung mga istorya. Because ang hiligay nun man good o kinaraya, ang hiligay nun if you want to hear sweet ways of speaking, mao tong mga hiligay nun. But ask mostly sa kinaraya is isog tanan mag-istorya. Murag sigig sigig yaw-yaw. Am I right, Hazel and Jennifer?
Oh,
Or
ma'am.
not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Totoo. Good na.
Oh, may classmate ko dati. Meron akong classmate. Siya is hiligay nun. Then sabi niya nag-ingon siya. Yeah, nag-ingon siya nga ingon siya nga suko na ko. Tapos like super sweet ang iyahang voice like ang hingon sa mga classmate, sure jud ka nga suko na ka. Oh, suko na kay ko. Siya, pag ko nga, okay, so parehas dahil may duha og problem diri aron. So mao to siya naging kuan na ko siya, buddy na ko siya sa classroom kasi always siya tawag always siya sa Bisaya ang ginatukso. Always siyang tinutokso sa classroom. Can anyone help me with that Bisaya?
Kantsawan?
Oh, ginakantsawan. Thank you for that. Always siya ginakantsawan sa classroom. And also, I know the feeling na nakantsawan pod ka because of your language. Ingana. So, mao to siya. Anak ko sa yaha na okay lang yan. Ramdam kita kasi kaya hindi ako nagsasalita ng Bisaya kasi ganyan din ang tono ko. Sabi, Ilongga ka rin? So, hindi masyado pero yung tono parang na-adapt ko na yung tono ng pagsalita ng lola ko. Kasi lola ko kasi yung kinaraya. Sabi ko, pero kinaraya kami, pero feeling ko hiligay nun ka kasi the way kami masalita parang galit kami parati kahit hindi. Ganon. Then, yun siya. Do you have anything to share? Basig na mo gusto i-share. I want to know you all. Okay. So wala na gid.
Wala na good.
Wala na jud ma.
Wala na gid, ma'am. Mulang gid to siya.
Amo lang gid. Wala to siya. If magpatabang ko sa inyo if I'm lost of words, just help me. I'm willing to learn. Also. Sa mga words nga dili na ko ma-capture. Malimtan dyan ako siya mostly katong mga Bisaya nga mga terms. And then, unfortunately, if ma-remember na ko siya from the other language na mugikan. And I think that's it for today. Thank you for listening and I hope you enjoyed this class. Wala mo nang natulog dara behind your cameras. Okay?
Wala jud, ma'am.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed the session that we have today. And again, if you have question clarifications later on na mabuo sa inyong mind, you can ask me. And then, if you need help from your other subjects, if ever nga dili mo makasagap og mga answer sa inyong mga pangutana with your topic. Ayaw lang po kunin yung pangutana kung sang inyong answer sa inyong mga questions Okay? You can ask me naman. I'm open to it. As long as nga dili lang jud ko busy. Kuan man ko, advising man ko period sa mga dati nako na mga estudyante. If needed nila og kuan, og help. Hindi ko yan pinagkakait. So, yun lang. And thank you everyone for listening and have a great day and God bless you always.
Thank you, good ma'am.
Okay.
God bless you always too.
God bless. So, ingat mo always ha. Always like, kuan, especially the pandemic
Thank you,
is,
ma'am.
kuan, nagataas na ang kuan sa cases and all. So, thank you and have a great day everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Ikaw din,
ma'am.
ma'am. Ingat always.
Bye-bye.
At the end of the session.